question 11b. In our latest computer science assignment, we've been given the task of creating a self-diagnosis machine for COVID-19. The following video presents my independent project on the assignment. In the screening process, patients will be asked a series of simple yes or no questions. These questions include general patient information, travel history in the last 5 to 6 months, and symptom-related questions. Based on the answers, a final calculation will be derived which will account towards correctly identifying if the patient has COVID-19 or not. Some of the unique features present in the program include 4 designated diagnosis types, an inbuilt database, and a doctor's login. So firstly, the process will actually differentiate the final calculation into one of 4 categories: no infection, mild infection, regular infection, and strong infection. These diagnosis results are stored in the program's self-updating inbuilt database. And lastly, a unique login can be used by doctors to access the patient's database and locate certain patient records or all names of patients falling under a certain diagnosis type. This doctor's login is password protected, utilizing a simple 3-attempt authorization method to give it some level of security. And to ensure reliable results, the screening process takes into account latest information on most infected countries, all recorded symptoms of COVID-19, and a case-by-case analysis on the actual diagnosis process. And to prove all this, we'll take a small demo demonstrating the program's capabilities. So here, I've already opened up a patient's form. I'm just going to input some test data so we can find out whether or not it works. So here I've just inputted some data. I'm going to go through this briefly. So the first part of the form is just some general info on the individual, meaning that their name and their age should be inputted. In the second part, it's all about their travel history in the past 5 months, obviously. And this list of the top 10 most infected countries as of April 2020 are shown. It asks the user if they've been to any of these countries, and if you have, like listed here, they have to input the number of the country that's been listed. In the third part of this screening process is a simple series of yes or no questions, as aforementioned. Just a bunch of symptom questions, and you can see that there's a bunch of sub-questions below each one. This is because some symptoms are derivative of one another, and therefore it makes sense to kind of compile them into the same sort of question. Over here, you can see that we have the diagnosis rendering and then obviously giving us our final result, which is just a regular infection for this data set. This regular infection or data type or diagnosis type gives us a message. This message includes how worried the individual should be and exactly what precautions that individual must exercise in order to stop the spread of the virus to anyone else. At the bottom, you'll see that there's a prompt saying, are there more patients waiting for diagnosis? If you were to write yes, it would create a whole nother form and another person would probably have to fill out this whole thing over again. But for the sake of simplicity and the fact that I want to show you the doctor's login, we'll just say no. So now we can log in as a patient or a doctor. If we log in as patient, it'll obviously pull up another form, but we want to log in as a doctor now. It asks us for the doctor's password. I already know the doctor's password, but let's just type something so I can show you how the authorization works. Now, obviously, it's the wrong password. It tells you how many attempts you have left, and you also have to write down the doctor's password again. I've already said C line 1 of code. This is obviously just for presenting it or showing it to my teacher. So here we are. I'm just going to put in the actual password. And we get the total amount of records and the options that are included in the doctor's login. So here we can say that I do want to find a record because we do. Now you can search based on 2 things, name or diagnosis type. Let's just type in for name for now. and we can search an individual record. Now, the only test data we have right now is the person named Max. So obviously, the only thing we can type is the person named Max. Now, we are given the patient's age and the patient's diagnosis type. This is very nice for searching just individual records if you have to. Let's just say we want to find another record, but this time we're going to search through diagnosis. Now we're given a list of the 4 diagnosis types. This is really good because if we want to find out multiple set of patients, then we can use this because we can check in which category is everyone most likely falling into. So it asks us which level would you like to see, input exactly. Now our test data obviously is in the regular infection level, quote unquote. So let's just type that. And we should be able to get patient names, then Max, which is the only one. If we had more records, we'd have more list of names. If we say no, we're just going to be promptly locked out of the doctor's login. So that was it. That was my program for the latest computer science assignment. And thank you for listening.